The Hanslope Show Podcast. It's all about Hanslope.
Hi, Trev here, and once again, thanks for downloading and having a listen to the Hanslope Show Podcast. Here's a special for you, and it's for everybody in the village. You must listen to this one. It's a great idea, a great initiative from the Village Hall, and if you run a business here in Hanslope, or you need a business to fix your washing machine or to have a look at your electrics, as we see on our Facebook page in the village, many people ask for recommendations. Now, this is a great way for you to connect with local businesses. Here's Jenny from the Village Hall to explain and listen very carefully and spread the word of the business fair at the Hanslope Village Hall. Here's Jenny.
Most people like to use local businesses, and there's always shout-outs on Facebook, someone to walk the dog, someone to cut your hair, someone to mend your bike, whatever. And the trustees, as part of their commitment to the local community, thought it would be good to have a business fair so that everybody can come and demonstrate their goods and services to show what they have to offer the village. And this will be open to just people whose businesses are based in Hanslope. So it'd be very local, so you know you're getting a good local business.
It's a neat idea. It's not been done before, is it?
Not that we know of. No.
And what a nice way to introduce yourselves to the local area. And then when you do need a plumber or someone to fix a washing machine, you can take their card away with you, put it in your little stack. I've met them. They're Hanslope based.
Exactly. And I was looking on Facebook this morning, and I think probably 3/4 of the posts on there were, does anybody know somebody who can do such and such? So we just thought it would be a really good idea. The thing is, now we have to get people in the village to come in and have a look. So we hope to have cakes from Karen's The Cake Tin, which always
a good
get
draw.
People in.
Yeah.
Cinnamon buns and sausage rolls. The stalls will be free for businesses and free for anyone who wants to come and have a look round.
Sounds fantastic. And so if I'm a local business, how do I get involved? How do I get in touch?
You can get in touch with me. You can email me. It's jenny@hanslopevillagehall.co.uk, and that's Jenny spelled Jenni. And if you're not sure, look on the Hanslope Village Hall website page. There'll be somebody there you can find to contact. If not me, there'll be somebody and they'll point you in the right direction.
Tell us, this is obviously to put the Village Hall on the map again as well in the village too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We do run several fundraising events throughout the year, and we are always looking for volunteers to help. So if I can give a plug for volunteers to come and help, either in the kitchen or taking money on the door or setting up or clearing up or whatever. Also, at the moment, we do need a vast amount of money to repair the Village Hall roof. We've got various grant applications in. We've had one very generous donation, anonymous, of a very large amount, which has really helped, but any small amounts help. This business fair isn't a fundraising thing. This is just as part of our commitment to the community. But the other events coming up, craft fair, media modelling, small space in the summer if you're a sci-fi fan, all those are actually fundraising events. So we do need people to come along, support those events.
And again, email yourself or just
email me, check it out on the website. We've got postings on the Village Facebook page at the moment, which will give you numbers and emails to contact. Shouldn't be difficult to find us out.
There's quite a few businesses in the village, aren't there, actually, now? It really has grown.
There's lots. I mean, I've had a list of about 40 or so. Not all of them have responded. So I'm hoping that this will get this out there. And if they hear about it, they think, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. I'll come along and support that. But, I mean, that's just 40 that, you know, I've managed to dig up one way or another. I'm sure there's more out there. Just spread the word, you know. These
are businesses that might be a one-person band, or they may employ a few people in the village too. So it's open for everyone. It's open for everyone, yes. One-person bands, as you say, or those that employ more than one person, several people, that's fine. So long as you're based in the village, we'd like to hear from you. Okay, so what date is it on? Friday evening, March the 20th, and Saturday morning, March the 21st. Great. Free for people to come along and meet those people that run our businesses. Absolutely, yes. So as well as that, there's the craft fair coming up. Tell us about that. There's our next craft fair is Saturday 18th of April, closely followed the following day by media modelling,
which is run by Matt Irvin. If you're a sci-fi fan, you will know his name. He lives in the village. And also later on in the year, we haven't got a date yet, we're planning a fish and chips and quiz night. So watch Facebook and the various posters that we put around the village for all those dates, including the business fair that's coming up. Volunteers all say that they enjoy coming. It's a chance to meet other people. They all have a good time. It is sometimes very hard work, but you get to meet all sorts of people, especially if you come to the model markets and the sci-fi mini Comic-Con in the summer, because you get all sorts of different people who are entertaining to talk to. But if you come and volunteer, it almost turns into a social occasion for you, really. And I've met so many people through doing this. And it's been really good for me to get to know people in the village.
Yeah, you're right. When you start doing things like Village Hall or the rest of the podcast, you certainly learn lots about where you live, and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
The Hanslope Show Podcast. Your village, your podcast. It's all about Hanslope.
A massive thanks to Jenny for coming in and telling us all about a brilliant initiative for the Village Hall, and the business fair is on the 20th and 21st of March. And Jenny's email address is JENNI, that's Jenny, at hanslopevillagehall.co.uk, and wish them all the best. And for those people that aren't on Facebook, haven't heard the podcast, how dare they, but spread the word, and let's get as many businesses and people there interacting and connecting with people that make our village tick. Now, as part of this podcast, this very special Village Hall podcast, I thought I'd give you the full-length version of a previous interview that we did with John Sorrell. And John will explain what he does. But this is a really fascinating chat about the history of the Village Hall and why it means so much to us here in Hanslope. Here's John Sorrell.
Well, I came to the Hanslope in 1976 as the only GP, got involved in the community. And one of the things that I was persuaded to get involved with was the development of a village hall, which at that time wasn't in the village. It was a church institute in a very poor state of repair and not really functioning very well.
Now, John, we will have, I think, a few chats on our podcasts over the many years we're going to do this.
Really? Right?
Yeah, because this is what I think the podcast is about, is capturing some of the history, but also you're involved in many things to this day as well. So you're one of those wonderful people that we really want to pick their brains about the village. And of course, you mentioned the fact you were a doctor here and involved in the Village Hall for many, many years. But I think today we'll focus on the early history of the Village Hall. And
Fine.
If we start at that bit, and then we'll put more meat on the bones throughout various other podcast episodes as well. So first of all, then, so take us right back to the beginning of the Village Hall, because it's fascinating, the history.
Well, it was built and funded by the Squire Watts in about 1840. There's a little bit of vagueness over the exact date, to be a school for the children of Hanslope. And it was functioned like that quite well. And its funding was taken over in 1877 by a village charity called the Feffy Charity, which I'm sure you'll have as another podcast at some time.
In fact, they're on this episode, John, so it ties in nicely. That's why we sort of wanted to chat about the early history, because, Feffy were a big part of what they called the top school. Is that right?
That's right, because a little bit later, a second school was built on the site where the current school in Hanslope is, and that became the bottom school.
There we go.
I'm not quite sure why, because geographically they're at the same level, but there we are. It was taken over by a school board in the 1902 Education Act. It was accepted under a Hanslope School Board, and it remained under that care until it ceased to be a school in the 1930s. So
the history is a little bit murky in terms of going into the Second World War. Am I right in thinking that? What happened around there?
When the school ceased to be a school, it was taken over by the church with a charity called the Sunday School Charity. And that was actually in 1908 that Sunday School Charities was set up. But it didn't actually acquire the Village Hall until the 1930s. And it then ran as a church institute for Sunday school and for other church activities. Okay. And it was used by the village, but not very extensively.
It's seen many different guises over the years. But in terms of the involvement in the village, it really has been a focal point for many, many years, but seems to be less recently.
In the 1930s, there was a move, 1920s even, there was a move to set up a proper village hall. There was some considerable restrictions on the Church Institute because it was run by the PCC in effect. The village couldn't really get involved in its development, its repair, its funding, its growth. And so there were some attempts to establish another village hall, and several things happened. And some funds were started to be raised in the 1920s for a parish hall. And there was a charity set up called the Hanslope Parish Hall Charity. Okay. And for some reason that failed and didn't get ahead. They had some land that they sold off. And the Charity Commission required them to use that money, and it was used to establish the recreation ground pavilion. The top school carried on as a church institute till the 1970s, when one of our what would have been the Newport Pagnell Rural District Councillors, a chap called David Baxter, who lived in Long Street, was also the clerk to the parish council and was quite keen on trying to establish a village hall. There had been an attempt in the 1950s after the Second World War, and about £2,500 was raised. And I understand some negotiations had gone on with Lord Hesketh, who owned the land which is now Western Drive and Watts Arms. And he had agreed in principle to let them have some land to establish a village hall. And some sketch plans were drawn up. And I've seen a sketch plan on Basildon bond notepaper, which I tried to copy, but there was still some controversy in the village between keeping the Church Institute as the centre and a new village hall. And there was a bit of a division between people. And the person was very reluctant to let me have it because he felt that there was still trouble could still be stirred up between the two families.
Really?
Yes.
So it runs deep.
It runs deep. And this was back in the 1970s when I was doing this, discussing this. Anyway, David Baxter and the parish council looked at possibly taking over the running of the Church Institute from the from the PCC to church. And there were lots of issues. One was that it was much harder for parish councils to raise funds, charitable funds, to improve the thing. I mean, the thing was falling to bits, basically. The other problem is that government can't do lots of things with church property, and funding was therefore limited. So it was suggested, in order to get the best grant, that a charitable village hall trust was set up. We at this time weren't aware that there was already a 1953 village hall trust set up. And I had some very interesting conversations with the Charity Commission over this. And that trust had about £2,500 invested in government war bonds that were still floating around.
Oh, I see.
Yes, which ultimately in about the late 1980s, we managed to get brought into the current village hall trust. Anyway, with David's really motivation and driving force, he approached four of us to become trustees of this new trust. I was one, and there were three other notable people in the village that undertake it as well. Sadly, all of them now died, which is a shame.
So who is on the trust now? So it's owned by the trust. Is that right?
It's owned by the church still. The church are still the landlords. The church, in the guise of the Sunday school charity, which is managed by the PCC. Sadly, it used to be in the hands of the local vicar, but a vicar in the past handed it over to the Oxford Diocese, which was a disaster from our point of view. It would have been better to have stayed with the local church, but that's history now.
Okay.
And the charity was set up in 1979. There was available at that time, and it only just because it ceased the following year, charitable funds from the Department of Education, and we got 3/4 of the funds to grow the extension and upgrade the building as charitable funds from the Department of Education. Good old days. And we had to raise a quarter of it, and we did that in various ways.
As a trust now, how many people on the trust? How many people look after it?
Well, there were the trust was for 40 years, so it ran out. Okay. The charitable trust ran out. We had a lease for 40 years and an agreement with the Sunday school charity via the PCC for 40 years. And that had to be in a particular structure. In order to gain our grant from the Department of Education, we had to use their format for how the thing had to be run. So there were 4 holding trustees who were responsible for holding the lease for the building. And then the thing was supposed to be run by a separate management committee who were elected each year by a membership, because the document required a membership, and we wanted it for the whole village. So we rather liberally said, right, well, all adults in the village are members, which did create some problems when you needed quorums at AGMs and things. And on that basis, the holding trustees also sat on the management committee, which again was not what was required. And that's how it ran. And each year at an AGM, everybody was re-voted, apart from the holding trustees.
Sure. It all sounds extremely complicated in terms of getting to this point of its history.
In 2016, I think it was, we had to renegotiate the lease. And that was a protracted and difficult problem. If you've had any dealings with the Oxford Diocese, they are not quick. Okay. They are not, and it was very difficult to get it through. So we now have a new trust deed and new trustees. I remained a trustee, but we now have other, and the management committee are now all trustees, and there's no two tiers.
Okay. Oh, that cuts down some of the complication.
You're not kidding.
Yeah. So we're now up to date. Now, over the years, of course, it was used for many years as a preschool in recent times.
Yes. Our main customer, because, of course, we're entirely voluntary.
Yes. And
the running costs, yeah.
Yeah, my kids went there, as many of our kids went there, and they had a wonderful time. And it was a beautiful place to have a preschool, because it just felt like you were part of the village history as a child. Going to preschool there.
Yes, we were very sorry to see them go for two reasons. I mean, one, because the preschool was established a long way before the Village Hall Trust, actually, because one of the vicar's wives used to run it in the Church Institute. So it had been going longer than the Village Hall Trusts. Yeah. And it was sad when we saw them move. It was good for them to move to the school. Obviously, it made an impact on our income. Yeah. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, but there's a little plaque we've put up in the Village Hall commemorating their time with us.
Oh, no, I haven't noticed that. No, that's wonderful. Oh, brilliant. In terms of the way that it looks now, with the two halls in many ways, so you have the main hall, then the small hall on the left-hand side.
Yeah, the small hall was added probably in about the 1920s, 1930s.
Okay.
Of course, and that's in brick. The original building was in stone. And at the back, there was a little extension. It was the main hall, the one with the gabled roof, was the old hall. And in one corner, where that pillar is, that contentious pillar,
yes,
there was an extension built backwards, which became the common room and the headmaster's office, head teacher's office. So that was there. And when we added the other extension, which is a flat roof extension, there was great debate about losing that room. Several of the local organisations, the parish council, the PCC, FEFI, and various other groups used to meet in this little hall, and they were concerned they were going to lose it. The original design was done so that Harrison sliding doors could be to shut it off as a room, which is why the pillar is so wide. But unfortunately, we didn't have enough money to buy the Harrison doors.
Oh, I see. So they never actually happened.
They never actually happened, no, because the whole extension cost about £70,000 in 1978, of which most came on this grant from the Department of Education.
And over the years, of course, the Hanslope Entertainment Group, HEGS, has put on their annual pantomime there for many, many years, John.
Yeah, they used to do 2 or 3 productions a year, actually.
Yes.
Actually, HEGS was formed same time the Village Hall started, just before it started in about 1976, 77, because I was in their first show. In fact, I directed their first pantomime.
And you're still involved to this day?
No, I left them last year because I've got some health problems, and I decided I'd take a year off.
Yeah, okay. Well, you've done sterling service. You deserve the break, John. And again, my kids have been in it and seen many, many shows over the years. It's amazing what HEGS do. Yeah,
when I came to the village, there was a group of ladies that used to do little concerts and take them around old people's homes and things like that. And they decided to put together a show in the old institute, and it was based on the Four Seasons, and it was a musical and jokey and skits and things on rather woodworm-ridden platform and things like this, and no proper lighting. And I'd been in the village practice for about 6 months, and I had done quite a lot of stage lighting when I was at university. And so I offered my services, and I actually ended up acting in the damn thing in drag, singing Tiptoe Through the Tulips 6 months after I started as a GP in the village.
Wow.
And I've got pictures to prove it somewhere.
And in terms of the funding now, since we lost the main client, of course, with the preschool,
yeah,
I imagine you found it very, very hard. So tell us a little bit about the modern history now and how it survives and going forward, what's going to happen.
Yes, we were very lucky. We added about 3 years ago a big store at the back because Heggs has got so much stuff. And they had an old metal container in Robert Beasley's field, which he was very pleased to get rid of.
Yes.
And that was funded on the 106 money from the new developments, which was very fortunate for us. Otherwise, we depend very much on fundraising and hires, the hire charges. We have a tariff for locals, which is cheaper than a tariff for people outside. But outside events, particularly at the weekend when the hall wasn't being used by preschool, are a major fundraiser because people pay a lot more for hiring the hall if they're not from the village.
Yeah.
But it's still a struggle. The fundraising is very important. And now we've just been landed with having to spend nearly £70,000 on the roofs.
Yeah, tell us about that. What's the problem with the roofs?
The slates are the original Welsh slate of about the 1930s, 1920s. It was refelted when the extension was done in the 1970s. But there's a lot of broken slates, quite a lot of evidence of leaking with battens underneath rotting. The main beams are okay, and the flat roof needs redoing as well. And so we've had it looked at, and we've had quotes, and it's quite an extensive amount of work that's got to be done.
Where will the money be found for that?
That's a very good question. We're currently looking for grant aid from various places, and we've got several applications out. We've set up a sort of funding thing for the village to donate, and we're at about £700 in that already, which is quite encouraging. We've got whatever the grant aids we do, we're going to have to fund at least a third of it, possibly a half of it.
And in terms of events there that happen, do I see there's the pop-up cake stall that comes along as well?
Things. There's a Heart and Soul choir, which used to be a Hartwell-based choir, but it's got a lot of Hanslope people in it. They rehearse there. Kickboxing, who's been a client of the Village Hall for quite a long time and very popular. We have the drama group, the name of which escapes me, True Colours Children's Drama, and they have sessions there. And there are a couple of bands that hire the hall to practice. There is a Zumba class, and I think there's a chair Pilates class at the moment. It's used quite a lot for kids' parties.
Yes.
And we occasionally have wedding parties. And we've done a few wedding receptions because the hall can look pretty nice when it's dressed up for a wedding reception.
Yeah, it really can.
And we're actually looking at getting licensed to be a wedding venue, although that's quite expensive with the roof hanging over us as well.
Now, obviously, there is much talk about the new pavilion in the village and the work that's going on there. I
was a bit concerned that we looked at a development for this about 8 to 10 years ago, and plans were drawn up by the parish council actually at that time. It's very much more sports orientated, and I don't think that's a big challenge to us. I looked at their plans. I went to their open days, and although they're going to greatly enlarge the sports hall and make it higher for badminton and things like that, it's going to all be marked out for sports, and I think that would be a disincentive for weddings and things. So I think that the village hall's still got a role. We're not really competing with, and it's a venture that for different things. It's horses for courses, isn't it?
Yes. Well, look, thank you so much for filling us in. It's been fascinating to find out the history and long may it continue. And the support, of course, is greatly needed because it is a lovely part of our village and a great facility that continues to be in use to this day.
Yeah, thanks. And we've now got signs up to point out where it is. It's only taken us 60 years to get road signs up.
The Hanslope Show Podcast. Your village, your podcast. It's all about Hanslope.